Reporter Cheryl Preheim talked with Ted James, and Cheryl, he notified Toyota about what he called a potentially deadly defect 3.5 years ago.
That was right after the family's Prius went out of control and crashed in Eagle, Colorado. The Jameses say the car accelerated to 90 miles an hour when their foot wasn't even on the gas pedal. The family's letter to Toyota in 2006 said, "You are on notice. This defect will cause serious injury or death." The family says they get a pit in their stomach every time they hear about another accident or death. They wonder why the Prius has not been added to the recall list.
I'm a detective. Scientists are detectives.
This is the detective work middle school science teacher Ted James has been doing for 30 years.
We have a problem. We come up with a hypothesis. We collect data to see if the evidence supports our hypothesis or not.
His investigative nature kicked in out of the classroom when his wife Elizabeth had a terrifying and bizarre accident in August of 2006.
Of course I wanted to figure out what was going on.
James has been collecting data to support his theory on Toyota ever since.
And I'm going to film the route that she took.
Elizabeth James was on I-70 in the morning rush.
All of a sudden, the car just surged, and her first reaction was to apply the brakes, and it didn't slow it down.
The emergency brake didn't help either.
She looked at the speedometer, and she was going 90 miles an hour.
She got off the highway and aimed for some trees. Going 90, the Prius flipped 3 times and landed 30 feet below in Clear Creek.
The river stopped the car. Like the wheels got wedged in the boulders in the river. Just amazing that she didn't die. Somewhere along here, she must have rolled the car.
Ted James videotaped the crash site, collecting more evidence.
At first, I couldn't find the path of the car, and I looked up, and there were trees broken off 10 feet off the ground because she was tumbling.
The State Patrol report determined an accelerator stuck open.
I knew that if our car has this defect, other ones can too.
So Ted James did more analysis.
Okay.
He had independent inspectors examine the Prius alongside Toyota inspectors. He and a lawyer sent stacks of letters to Toyota with the findings, and he called over and over and over. In January 2007, Toyota responded that the brakes were worn, but the accelerator was fine. End of story. But the Jameses say they knew then their crash was just the beginning.
We were concerned about the safety of other people, and we knew this was the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to connect the dots on something like this.
Facing declining sales and a damaged reputation, Toyota's CEO speaks out.
3 years later, the James family started hearing the news.
I just winced. It was like my worst nightmare came true. People had died. Toyota blew me off. They wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't give me the time of day.
This scientist, this detective, isn't abandoning his hypothesis.
My hypothesis is that this problem is caused, it's an electronic glitch.
He believes he and others have the evidence to prove it.
The truth will come out.
Ted James says he cannot understand why Prius has not been included now on the list of cars with potential acceleration problems. He says he wants to believe in Toyota again. It is, in fact, a company that awarded him a prestigious $10,000 education grant years ago. So, Adele, he had been a very loyal customer. He's hoping now to be a part of those congressional hearings that are scheduled for later this month.
All right, Cheryl Preheim, thanks a lot.